Trina used to think nothing could ever break the amazing friendship she and Jocelyn had. But lately that idea felt really far away. The space between them just kept getting bigger and more painful, like a heavy weight on her chest. She kept telling herself that maybe Joss was just swamped with school or all the new stuff she had to do. But the change was too sudden, too on purpose. Joss would dodge specific questions and her eyes would dart away whenever Trina brought up Windermere. Their talks, which used to be so easy now, just hit a wall of quiet. Trina felt it, that shift, a cold knot in her gut. It told her something was off way before she had any actual proof. That little bit of doubt, once it got started, just kept growing. It kept telling them Joss wasn't just busy. She was keeping a secret, a really big, dangerous one that was pushing her further from Trina every single day. The unspoken truth was always there, filling the apartment, a quiet guest neither of them would talk about. But they both knew it was there. Joss started slipping out without a word or coming back really late with stories that just didn't make sense. She'd give these weak smiles that didn't quite reach her eyes. And Trina would often find herself in the kitchen at night just staring at the door, trying to figure out when her best friend began acting like she was in the way instead of someone she could trust. Joss got better and better at dodging the subject, which only made Trina sure this wasn't just about hiding the truth. It was about burying it deep. As Joss kept things hidden, Trina began to stew, her anger growing with each question that went unanswered and every fake laugh that just didn't sound like her. She really disliked being shut out. It was a terrible feeling to realize the person she trusted most was now keeping secrets from her. But what really bugged her was how Joss just brushed it off. The big question wasn't just about keeping secrets. It was about loyalty. She really needed to know if her friendship still meant as much to Joss as it did to her. Things got really tense. And then a strange kind of darkness set in when Trina saw Joss get all jumpy anytime Anna came up, or even just talking about that weird book that was part of the Windermere mystery. That's when she went from just suspecting something to knowing for sure. Joss wasn't just keeping a secret. She was mixed up in something that scared her so much. She lied to the only person who had always been there for her. Trina's mind was going a mile a minute, thinking of all the worst things that could possibly happen, each one making her feel even more uneasy. And with every little bit of information she found, her patience just wore thinner and thinner. She couldn't stop replaying their talks, picking apart every little thing. She remembered how scared Joss sounded when she thought Trina wasn't paying attention, and before she knew it, that frustration turned into this really strong resentment she just couldn't keep inside anymore. It felt really personal, like Joss actually picked danger over being friends, kept secrets instead of being upfront, and just stayed quiet when she should have been honest. And once that thought really sank in, Trina felt something inside her start to give way. She started dodging Joss not because she was mad, but because every time they talked. It just hit her how much things had changed from when they used to be so close without even trying. The apartment used to feel so warm, but now it just felt full of shadows. And every single one came from something we hadn't said. She started watching Joss differently, searching for weaknesses, hints of guilt, anything to explain what Joss wouldn't say. When Joss kept sending quick messages and jumping at every notification, that's when the anger became a really sharp feeling ready to lash out. Their friendship, which Trina thought was solid, started to shake because of all the lies. She could tell with a sinking feeling that they were about to hit their breaking point. We knew a showdown was coming. Joss had lied herself into a tough spot with nowhere left to hide, and Trina had just had enough. The quiet between them shifted. It wasn't just awkward anymore. It felt like it was tearing apart everything they had created together. Trina just knew things were different the second it hit her. It wasn't that Joss was just looking out for herself anymore. It was that Joss picked keeping a secret over their broad friendship, and that changed everything. You knew once that line was crossed, things would never be the same. Whatever the truth actually was, it was going to be their undoing. It wasn't that the truth itself was so terrible it couldn't be forgiven, but hiding it for so long had already caused the real problem. Trina could tell her friendship was coming apart piece by piece, and she had a feeling the end was near, just waiting for anger and heartbreak to crash into each other. Deep down, she really just wanted to believe they could fix things. But with the storm brewing between them getting worse, it was getting harder to ignore the truth, Joss's secrets. The ones she wouldn't share could seriously tear them apart. All the stress with Portia was already too much for Trina, and now finding out who the baby's father really is. With all the lies just pushed her over the edge. Portia didn't just mess up with her lies. She chose to tell them. She was trying to build a reality that kept her safe, but it left Trina completely lost, full of nothing but questions. All the hush talks, the dodging of questions, and every little change in Portia's face just made Trina feel like the truth was way worse and much more about her than she ever thought. But things blew up once it became clear that Jocelyn knew something real, something risky. Something she decided to keep quiet. It was something else entirely when Jocelyn did it. Trina could get past being scared or confused or even making a dumb mistake in the moment. But what she couldn't wrap her head around was why her own best friend would just stand there saying nothing. while she went completely crazy dealing with all of Portia's lies. If Jocelyn really had info that could flip everything on its head, stuff she kept hidden on purpose, then their friendship was already on some really shaky ground. Trina found herself facing a double whammy. Not only was she digging for answers about her own family, but she also had to figure out why Jocelyn had kept things hidden from her in the first place. The more Trina tried to get a straight answer, the more Jocelyn pulled back, giving fuzzy responses and acting super calm, but it felt fake. Trina already had this feeling, and Jocelyn's dodging the questions just made it worse. It wasn't just that Jocelyn was hiding something, it was that she was protecting someone. Or maybe she's just looking out for herself. And when Trina realized that it just lit a fire inside her, it wasn't just about Portia lying anymore. It was a domino effect started by a friend she really trusted. And that friend just kept quiet. That quiet moment really set everything off, turning doubt into pure rage and all the confusion into deep sadness. Things changed between Trina and Jocelyn in an instant. You could cut the tension with a knife. There were so many unspoken accusations and broken trust in the air. Trina got it. With Portia's lies piling up, Jocelyn saying nothing, and all those questions just hanging there. She knew things were completely out of hand. When the truth came out, it wouldn't just crack open. It would explode. It really felt like things were about to blow up, totally ripping apart Portia's whole situation and also wrecking the friendship Trina thought would last forever. When the truth finally came out, it wouldn't just mess up friendships, it would show all the hidden plans. All the times people were disloyal and every single fear they'd worked so hard to keep secret. The eruption was inevitable and there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. And not a single one of them came out of it the same. Trina always thought her gut feelings were pretty good, but lately it was like her intuition had gotten an upgrade. It was this constant thrum under her skin, a feeling that kept telling her something was way off with Joss. Nothing about him registered as normal anymore. Joss wasn't just sidetracked or stressed out. It was more about how she'd talk in incomplete sentences. The way her shoulders were always tense. And how her eyes would dart around nervously whenever Trina brought up anything that even slightly touched on Strange. Happenings near campus or Windermere. Trina didn't need anyone to tell her something was off, she just knew it clear as day. Like she could sense changes in a painting before anyone else even saw them. With her knack for investigation sharpened by all the recent craziness, she just knew Joss was about to stumble into a new puzzle, a really risky one. It felt way more dangerous than anything they'd come across before. What truly made it even more unbearable was how Joss suddenly started keeping her distance. At first you wouldn't have noticed much. Just little changes, a few cracks in their usual ways. But those cracks grew fast. Joss just stopped telling anyone where she was going. She just wouldn't look at Trina when Trina asked her really direct questions. She had this laugh that came out too fast, too jumpy, and every time she did, you could just tell she was trying to cover up something she felt bad about. Because Trina knew Joss like no one else, she could tell right away that Joss's reactions weren't harmless. They were really protective. They really thought things through. Someone had to live in two different worlds, and the lies they told were just a part of that difficult situation. Joss just didn't get it the harder she tried to keep things secret. The more Trina wanted to figure out what was actually going on. Trina kept pushing and Joss just kept pulling away. It really felt like it was going to happen that way no matter what. Joss wasn't trying to be mean by avoiding her. No, it was all about fear. She was scared of being exposed, scared of putting Trina in danger, and really scared of what would happen once the truth she was carrying around finally came out. When she tried to protect Trina, she actually ended up hurting her instead. Their friendship became a constant fight, and the quiet moments between them were far more damaging than any argument. The truth about WSB was bound to get out. It couldn't be kept under wraps forever. They were like acid seeping into every part of Joss's world, changing her choices, her routines, messing her up so much that Trina hardly knew who she was anymore. What started as just a weird change in behavior slowly became a habit. Trina would overhear hushed phone calls she wasn't supposed to, and there were late-night disappearances with thin excuses. Then came the subtle ways things were avoided, all pretending to be about caring. Every time Trina tried to reach out, Joss stepped back. Every time Trina asked a question, Joss just dodged it. And every time Trina tried to bridge the growing gap between them, Joss just added another layer of distance. Pretty soon that frustration started to feel a lot like suspicion. Why didn't Joss trust Trina if something dangerous was going on? Why did she think pushing her away was the best way to keep herself safe? Why did their bond feel like a problem now? When it used to be so strong they could get through anything, Trina just kept asking herself questions. And with each one, she got madder. Being shut out by the person she cared about most, that was something she simply couldn't take. And the tension between them kept building, getting so thick you could practically feel it in the air, making it hard to even breathe. Trina started to really pick up on all these little things. Joss would pause before giving even simple answers. Her hands had this slight tremor when she looked at her phone and whenever they walked into a room. She'd scope out the exits like danger was just around the corner. Trina could tell it wasn't guilt, but more like this huge secret she was lugging around. Knowing why didn't make the betrayal hurt any less. She remembered every single time she went to bat for Joss, defending her, looking out for her. Having her back, and this is how she gets treated now, like she's not even someone you can trust? That hurt really bad, way more than anyone thought it would, and it just kept hurting. It wouldn't heal. Trina kept telling herself that Joss probably had a good reason for acting the way she was. That she wasn't purposefully keeping her in the dark, and that all the secrecy wasn't meant to be personal. But you know how it is. As the days rolled into nights and still no one had any answers, that anger just kept building up, getting hotter and hotter. That anger wasn't just about Joss lying. It was also because I was starting to suspect that whatever she was keeping secret wasn't just risky, but it meant she was looking out for the wrong people entirely. Things really flipped for Trina when she accidentally picked up bits and pieces of conversations. She heard names she didn't know, urgent warnings, and talk about operations that just sounded shady. She realized Joss wasn't just stuck in a tough spot. She was caught in something that could completely ruin both of them. And Joss tried her hardest to make sure Trina didn't see anything. That hit Trina hard, breaking whatever bit of patience she had left. The quiet wasn't simply hurtful. It felt like a real slap in the face. It felt like Joss didn't really trust her, like he didn't think she was worth enough to tell her about the danger. She also got the feeling that he didn't believe she could handle the truth. The heartbreak kind of curdled into something ugly. Resentment. The whole thing with the WSB was getting out of hand like a really bad storm. And the girl who Trina always felt safe with, well, she was right in the middle of it all, completely spiraling. Their friendship, which used to be so strong, was now really shaky, kinda like it was about to fall apart. They kept looking at each other, and each time it felt like blame. Every chat felt like a tough deal. Every time I was by myself, it felt like all the things I never said were just hanging in the air with me. As Trina got more suspicious, she became more and more determined to find out what was really going on. Even if Joss wouldn't just say it. Joss was really giving Trina the cold shoulder, and that just made Trina more sure that something serious was going on. She knew she couldn't just brush it off anymore. Eventually something had to give. It was bound to happen. Those secrets were just too much to handle, the lies weighed us down. And the emotional distance became truly unbearable. Just one showdown, one misstep, one weak spot. That's all it would take to spark absolute chaos. Things were really heating up between them. It was picking up. It was an absolute mess, almost spilling everywhere. And when it finally did happen, it would do more than just show everyone what really went on. It completely changed their friendship forever. When secrets turn into weapons, someone always gets hurt. And here both of them would.